Okay, it's now recording. You're good
All
to
right.
go.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody, or morning, whatever it is for you, Dina. Thank you for coming. I'm going to talk today about the training program that we developed for our undergrad teaching fellows or peer mentors here at KU, and hopefully get some suggestions and feedback from you all on ways we can make it better. So just a little context. So this program was developed for the School of Engineering. Our School of Engineering has 5 departments, approximately 2,200 students. This program was developed as part of the Engaged Learning Initiative in the KU School of Engineering. And so in addition to some active learning classrooms, we were able to start a pilot program for this Undergraduate Teaching Fellow program. And it started with 4 undergraduate teaching fellows, and within just a couple of semesters grew to almost 30 undergraduate teaching fellows now, so a couple years later, in between 12 to 15 courses per semester. In our program, our undergraduate teaching fellows are typically students that have taken the course, well, they're always students that have taken the course recently. They have to have gotten an A or a B in the class, and they're primarily utilized to assist student groups or individual students during in-class learning activities. So they come to each class period and help with in-class active learning, and then they typically meet with the instructor or instructional team about 1 hour a week, and then some professors have them do like 1 hour a week of office hours or some sort of out-of-class activity. Additionally, we have developed this training program that takes about 6 hours per semester now of training activities. So just a little bit of background on how this program was formed. Basically, this was kind of a hybrid model of the learning assistant model from the University of Colorado at Boulder and the peer-led team learning model, where in that model, students lead like workshop style classrooms or recitations. And in the learning assistant model, the peer mentors are working in the classroom during active learning, working with the students. And so this is highlighted in red because this is exactly how we use our undergraduate teaching fellows. The difference with the LA model is that they aim to they choose STEM education majors as their mentors, and so part of that training is them taking an entire course on pedagogy and training them to become, with the goal of training them to become high school STEM education teachers, or sorry, STEM teachers in high school. So that's kind of where our program differs from that model. This is just an overview of the different courses that we have had undergraduate teaching fellows in over the past 3 semesters. Just kind of to give you an idea of the breadth of the courses that we are supporting right now. So primarily what I'm going to talk about, though, are there any questions about the program in general? Because now I'm going to start talking about the training. Okay. So when I started here, this program had just kind of exploded, and they had like 22 undergraduate teaching fellows getting ready to go, but no formal training program. And so that was one of the first things that I worked on. And as we were thinking about what the goals of the training session should be, or the training program should be, we kind of decided on the goals listed here. So we wanted to help students have skills for attaining an inclusive environment, or at least being aware of what that is. We wanted to help them develop skills and a toolkit for engaging and supporting students during in-class activities, since that's the their main role. We also wanted to provide a community of support for the undergraduate teaching fellows, because these are students from all different departments in the School of Engineering, so they may not know each other, they may not necessarily know another undergraduate teaching fellow at all, and so we wanted to make sure that they're meeting a few times a year to get to know each other and kind of have a feel for a community of this group. We also wanted to highlight behaviors that facilitate and impede student learning, just to get both for them and so that they can potentially work with the instructor to use more behaviors that facilitate student learning and less that impede student learning. And we also wanted to use these sessions as a chance to get feedback on the program so that we could continuously work on improving it and kind of, get an idea of what problems were like right away instead of waiting until the end of the semester. So the first semester, this is what it looked like. So we had 3 training sessions throughout the course of the semester. The first one was in the very beginning before class started. We did some inclusiveness training. We did role playing to practice the role of an undergraduate teaching fellow, and then we covered some administrative stuff about how to get paid and stuff like that. The second training session was midway through the semester, and we gave them some background information on kind of why peer mentoring is important and why it's useful and why it's beneficial to both the students and themselves. And we also did some case studies on student motivation and discussed some specific student engagement techniques that they could use. We also asked them, we also kind of went around this in a circle and asked for, you know, what challenges have you had? What are you kind of struggling with right now? What are you guys having a hard time with? And just kind of discussed that. And then in the third session, this wasn't until the very end of the semester, which was one of the first things that we knew we needed to change. It was kind of silly to have this session like as they were wrapping up their role. Some of them wouldn't be doing it again. But in between training session 2 and training session 3, we discovered the Learning Assistant Alliance website from the University of Colorado at Boulder, and all of the resources available there. That they just have tons of resources available for training their LAs, but we could use a lot of it for training our undergraduate teaching fellows because we're trying to teach them a lot of the same stuff. So in between these two, I found that resource, and so then in the third session, we used that, and they have some videos on there, lots of videos that basically show undergraduate teaching fellows or their LAs in action. And so we took 3 of those videos and watched them and had the students go through a series of questions, kind of analyzing the video. Any questions about that? Any of that stuff? Okay. So for the spring, then we knew, we knew we wanted to change some things, and one of the things that we really wanted to change was that if you notice back here, oops, sorry, all of these were attended by only the undergraduate teaching fellows, and some of the feedback that we got from them helped us kind of understand that really it'd be best if faculty came to at least one of these meetings, because while we maybe were telling them one thing and explaining their role one way, but maybe their faculty member didn't understand or know, or maybe just viewed their role as something different. And so there was a lot of confusion about what they're really allowed to do and what their roles are. And so that was one of the biggest things we wanted to change, was that we wanted to have the faculty and the undergraduate teaching fellows at the training session. And to kind of get them all off on the right foot. And also we wanted to give them some time up front to meet and kind of plan for how they're going to work together over the course of the semester. We also wanted to add a peer review activity. We didn't do any of that the first semester, so we added a peer review activity. And then we reorganized the content. Since we thought these videos were so amazing, we went ahead and put those in the beginning at the first training session. And did the role playing in the second training session. So we do that now after they've had about a month of working in the classroom. So these, the text in blue are things that we changed from the fall semester of 2016, and the things that are in bold and italic are resources that we got from that LA Alliance website. So just to kind of make sure you know that those types of things are totally available there, and I highly recommend going there and taking advantage of that. So in the first training session this time, again, we did inclusiveness training. We did the videos. We did the same 3 videos in this session. And then we did an open versus closed questioning activity. And again, this came straight from the LA Alliance website. But they were in groups, and they were handed some objects that they didn't know what they were. They were some like 3D printed fossils or something along those lines. And they had to basically ask questions about the object to try to figure out what it was. And then, naturally, the first set of questions they come up with are mostly closed questions, yes or no type questions. So then we have them change those questions to more open questions to help them just see that how you can just change how you're asking a question to make it more open. And then it was important to us to have some planning time at the end. So we gave about 20 minutes at the end for the faculty and the UGTF to talk about how they're going to work together through the semester. Yeah, so that is the main difference. So again, the second training session this time we just did the role playing that we did in the first training session last time. And then in the third training session, we discussed that peer review, and we had them work on an undergraduate teaching fellow manual. So let's see, in spring of 2017 was the first time we did that. And so then we actually gave that manual to the incoming undergraduate teaching fellows for the fall of 2017. And now at the end of this semester, they will go ahead and edit that and add to it, and we'll keep just kind of iterating on that document to have something for the new people coming in, because we didn't have anything. Something that I'm going to add this year, or this semester, that we didn't do last semester was this discussion of common misconceptions. And so I thought it'd be fun to get the undergraduate teaching fellows in there, maybe divide them up so that people from the same discipline are not sitting together, and have the different disciplines talk about what the kind of misconceptions or challenging concepts are, and just have a similar discussion to what we did at the TRESTLE meeting with undergraduate teaching fellows. Any questions so far? Kind of rambling a lot. I just want to go into a little more detail about what we did. So this joint, okay, here's another good point. So this first training session, we actually opened up to and worked together with faculty from physics, chemistry, biology, and geography, as well as engineering. And so we had about 100 people there. Again, to go through that, I already talked about what we did at that meeting, but that was kind of a new thing too, was to have, because people in these departments, they have students in similar roles. They're not exactly the same as our role for undergraduate teaching fellows, but it's close enough that we thought they could benefit from this training as well. So just a little bit of a discussion about the actual role-playing scenarios that we did. Again, we always gather feedback in every session. That's the first thing we do, is just ask everyone how it's going and what, how are they interacting with their students and instructors. But we worked through 2 different sets of scenarios with kind of different goals. And the first one is to help just give them practice with guiding students to a solution without just giving them the answer. And so the first thing we do is we've used different disciplines, but for example, the first time we used all of the people playing the role of the UGTF were students from chemical and petroleum engineering. And so all the students playing the role of students, though they were not in that field. And so we gave the groups of students a chemical engineering homework problem to work on. So they had absolutely no idea how to start. But the people who were playing the role of the undergraduate teaching fellows obviously knew how to do it because they were chemical engineers. And so we had them kind of practice, getting a group started who really has no idea what they're, where to even begin. And the second thing we did, so then we changed it up. We had different students play the role of the undergraduate teaching fellow, and this time it didn't really matter what discipline you were in. And we gave the people playing the role of the undergraduate teaching fellow the abstract of a patent, so they could the description of a patent, the picture and the description. But we only gave the people playing the role of the student at the tables, we gave them just the picture of the patent. So all they have is a drawing of some random patent object. And the people playing the role of undergraduate teaching fellow had the description. And so again, this is a similar scenario where we were just trying to have them practice helping a group. The goal was to figure out what is this object you're looking at, asking them questions to help them, to lead them down the right path without just, saying yes or no, or giving the answer away. The second set of scenarios that we went through, this was more to practice working with difficult group members. And so it really doesn't matter what the scenarios were. We just gave them 2 different problems to work on. So we had the groups work at designing a peanut butter and jelly sandwich making machine for one of the rounds. And then for another round, we had them work on a Google Maps explanation. So explain to us how Google Maps decides the best way to get from point A to point B. But during these times, we kind of slipped paper to some of the different members of the group and told them, hey, you're going to act really distracted. You're going to try to get the team off track. You're going to keep wanting to talk about basketball or something else, and kind of try to get everyone off track. And then and the other in the Google Maps one, we gave people the role of either trying to be like a dominating student where you're just trying to dominate the discussion, or someone who's just really quiet and kind of sitting back and not saying a lot. So if you were in the role of the undergraduate teaching fellow, you had to kind of work with that person to kind of pull them into the discussion, or maybe pull the rest of the group into the discussion and settle down the dominating student. But so that was kind of the goal and how we tried to do that.
I have a quick question. Did
Yes.
and like in these groups, did each student have to go through like practicing these different roles, or was it like randomly assigned?
It was random. So like we basically just made sure that everyone had a chance to be the role of undergraduate teaching fellow for one of those.
Okay.
For one of the four, yeah. One kind of funny thing that came out of it last time when we did it was that when we went through and asked the teams, okay, like we asked the people who were in the role of undergraduate teaching fellow, okay, well, how did it go? You know, like what did you think? Because they didn't know necessarily that there was like that we planted someone in the group to act a certain way. And we only had 3 groups at this meeting, but 2 out of the 3 groups, the undergraduate teaching fellow said, hey, it went great, it was awesome. So like they didn't even like notice that there was this person in the team, which told me 2 things. One is that the person who was playing the role maybe didn't like play it up, you know, enough, or what I think was even more common actually, and I think this is like actually really parallel to what happens in these situations, is that I think sometimes you just ignore the person who's the problem, and so we had a little bit of a discussion about that. Anyway, it was kind of interesting. We did a peer review, pretty straightforward what we did. This is just a kind of a screenshot of what the front page of the peer observation form looks like, but we just matched the students with someone to observe based on their schedules, which is no small task. It's insane how complicated it is with students in all different departments and all different levels. And then we asked them to observe the UGTF, and actually I asked them to like follow them around, like as if you were like learning to be a waiter and like following your person around, so they can kind of hear what they're talking about and what kind of questions they're asking. I'm not sure, I don't know to the extent to which they actually did that, but I know some people did, and I know some people didn't. So, but we asked them to fill this out, and then really it's just really meant to be a starting off point to kind of talk about when they actually meet to talk about the peer review. And there's another page to this form where we ask a bunch of more open-ended questions. So the third training session is kind of a wrap-up and feedback session. So we talk about the peer review, we work on the UGTF handbook, and then new for this semester is we're going to have that misconceptions or bottlenecks discussion. Because it's at 7 a.m. and I figured I had to make more, I had to have more content than just the first 2 things. So just a little snapshot of kind of what the feedback has been on the training sessions. So this comes from, this was feedback on spring of 2017. And so the first training session, I don't know, 63% thought it was useful. The second training session, not quite as much. And the third training session seemed like they liked that one a lot more, which is kind of interesting to me. But keep in mind the first one, this involves more than just our engineering students, so we don't know what the breakout is there. But there was no totally useless feedback, so I guess that's good. So just some questions that we have. First of all, if there's anything that you've seen, that you think about that we need to include that's not there, or any ideas you have on kind of the content of our training, I'd be happy to hear that. We're also thinking about, now that we've had this for a couple of semesters, 3 semesters now, we're trying to think about how we can change this to include the people that have gone through this several times. So we have several undergraduate teaching fellows who have gone through this twice now. And so what can we do for them that's maybe different than this to continue enriching their experience, as well as the faculty who have already done that first training session? What can we do for them to kind of make it a little bit deeper, or get them more information so it's not just repeating the same thing we've done? And then also just ideas for how we can leverage these undergraduate teaching fellows in the classroom to support the development of student professional identity. So one of the projects I'm working on in engineering is this tiered mentoring project where we have students from upper level classes making videos for students in lower level classes on both content and also professional identity type stuff. So, but then, you know, it occurred to me, like, we already have these students in this situation. We have these upper class students in the class already. They don't need to make a video, they're right there. So I don't know if people had ideas on how they've done that or how we could potentially do that. So those are some of my questions, and I'm open to any feedback or any questions.
So y'all can feel free to unmute yourself. Robin was typing in here, Molly. I don't know if you see the chat box, to have them teach a training session. It says, no, there's no better way to learn than to teach it, and challenge them to come up with at least one way that would stretch their current teaching knowledge.
Okay, that's a great idea.
I was kind of thinking too, if you're kind of going for some, I'm assuming if they kept going to training, it would be because, you know, they're interested in the pedagogy portion of it. It'd be kind of interesting to give them, like, you know, little certificates of completion or something like that, like, you know, once or twice a semester. Maybe that's probably even too much. Or doing like online modules with different topics, and if they attend and participate and stuff like that, it's just, you know, shows that they're engaged and want to keep learning, and then maybe they can show, you know, on a resume or a CV that they've been staying engaged with this. So that could be motivation for them as well.
That's a great point. Cool.
Dina says, do they have any grading responsibilities, the UGTFs?
No, that's a kind of one big distinction between the UGTFs and a TA. They're not supposed to grade.
But that's just for engineering though, right?
That's just for engineering. Yep.
Okay.
And that's all part of why we have the name UGTF, is that, well, we didn't want it to be like UTA because it sounded too much like TA, which, like, I think at least here kind of implies grading and a whole bunch of other responsibilities. So we wanted to make sure it was like a different, this is different than a GTA or an undergraduate TA, in the sense that it's, the real focus is on in-class active learning assistance.
Are they paid for this?
Yes, $10 an hour.
Okay.
It comes out to about $1,000 a semester-ish per student.
Okay.
Hi, I was just wondering, do the teaching fellows get paid for the training time that they come in?
Yes. Yes.
And is there an academic component to their teaching fellowship?
In terms of getting credit for some sort of academic degree, no.
I feel like you could definitely spin it that way, though, depending on where you are and if your university is supportive.
Our a psychology department for quite some time have run a 400 course where the fourth year, mostly concurrent education students who are also psychology enroll, and so for a semester they have the and so every week they go through the lab, like debrief, look at what worked, what didn't work, and then introduce to the lab activity the next week. They're called lab facilitators. And in the winter, they get paid. It's a one. I don't know whether the credit. It's a fall course, and then in the winter they're paid for their time to come in and teach the 100.
How do you make this sustainable? I don't know if who's paying these undergraduate teaching fellows right now. How do you come up with money in the future?
Right. Right now it is funded through endowment, I think, for the engaged learning. It comes through the engaged learning initiative. Caroline would have the exact details on that. But I think given how successful this has been in terms of, I mean, the faculty love it, the students love it, the undergraduate teaching fellows themselves love it in terms of the like actual survey responses I've gotten back. And it's a small, it's not a lot of money. And I think I feel like here, I don't know, we'll see if we can continue to raise that kind of money, but that's a really good, sustainability is a really good question.
Yeah, we fundraise directly for this initiative. So we put together a series of resources, and we fundraise from alumni and other folks in conjunction with KU Endowment. And it's been really successful, because I think that the link is not always as clear as it is here to alumni as to how their contributions can directly help undergraduates. And here it's really, really clear. So it's been pretty successful from a fundraising standpoint, but that is how they're supported.
So you are collecting evidence on how this has been helping with student learning, student success. I know at Colorado Boulder, they actually use this data to convince the vice provost for teaching and learning to fund their LA program. It's really a small pot of money coming out of the vice provost's office, but what they want to see is this aligns with their strategic plan, and they want to see evidence and data showing this is a successful program.
Yeah, that kind of segues with Robin's question too, Molly, asking if you have any data on the success of the program. So you have the surveys. Is there anything else you're using?
We have survey data. We have COPUS data, lots and lots of COPUS data, basically showing that, you know, the injection of this resource is resulting in a lot more working versus listening happening in classes. It's a little, you know, circular, because the whole point of this program is to do that exact thing, but we have data showing that yes, it has done that. And then we have survey data, and we don't, at this point, we don't have a good body of data related to learning, but we have started, and what we've started doing is looking at success in downstream courses of cohorts of students taking the same course before the undergraduate teaching fellows and after. We just haven't gotten enough data yet to really make that meaningful, but we're trying to show that hopefully, you know, after the injection of this resource, students are in general more successful down the road.
Another question came from Dina about the faculty UGTF planning time. And that session in the spring 2017 training. She said, what do they do in that session, in that planning time?
So that is designed to have them talk about, we really encourage them to like set up weekly meetings. And so, and sometimes I feel like well, I don't know. I felt like maybe if I gave them time to sit down together face to face before the semester started, they would actually have to sit down and talk about, okay, how are we going to do this? How are we going to meet? How are we going to be prepared for class? Because part of the feedback we got from students was that, you know, their ability to be effective in class was limited by how early they could get the material from the professor. So, you know, having the content ahead of time and kind of being on the same page ahead of time was really important to them. And so we were hoping that during that would at least provide them, they would both be in the same place at the same time, so they could sit there and talk about how they were going to, you know, meet and correspond over the course of the semester, and what the responsibilities were going to look like, and what the class time was going to look like. Is this professor going to lecture for 20 minutes, or, you know, is he going to do active learning every other day, or how is it going to work? So it was very open-ended. We didn't give them a specific, they didn't have a specific thing they had to do. They just had to talk.
And Dina says, do you make sure that both are from the same department or discipline? Is it the actual faculty-student pair?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. It's the actual pair that are going to be working together. And we encourage them to bring, if there are GTAs or other assistants working in the class, we encourage them to bring those people as well, so that this can kind of be a time that they can all get on the same page about how the class is going to go.
What do you do if a faculty member can't attend? What do you do with the...
That's a really good question, and they don't all attend. We've said in our in the application for this program where they apply for the resource, we've said this training is mandatory. And we send like 3 reminders out saying that this is mandatory, you have to come, but still like half of them come. So that's another challenge we have, is just getting people in the door.
Wait, that's the undergrads that aren't
no,
showing?
no, that's the faculty.
The faculty, okay.
Yeah.
In Queens Faculty of Engineering ECE department, we did something. It's not through the same thing, but we had a questionnaire that we are prepared for the faculty so that they can state what they need from the TAs ahead of time. So if even they can't meet, they can have, as a department, we have what they need and when they're gonna submit when they're gonna give the material to the TAs, and what there's 3 responsibilities of the TAs in the tutorials and the labs. So yeah, we can, even if a faculty member cannot attend the workshop, I think you can do something.
That's
like
a great idea.
Yeah, we're doing that actually. We're gonna be deployed soon, but we finished the survey already, or the questionnaire already.
Cool. These are great ideas. Thank you, everyone.
I am interested to hear if anyone else has any ideas or feedback in terms of the scaffolding. So people who have already gone through the training, what do you do for them in the next years?
I love your activities and your approach, and I've taken lots of notes. Like, hey, that's cool. That would be great. I'm wondering if, like, in terms of handover, really, the best way to get something completely is to teach it. Could you not like hand over the facilitation of the session to those who have previously?
Yeah, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. I realize I talked really fast. It's only 12:30.
Okay. Are there other questions or anything? Actually, I wanted to ask about the manual. Is that kind of stuff going to be publicly available?
Oh, I could make that. Yeah, sure. I'll send it to you and you can put it where it needs to go.
Okay. All right. Successful brown bag.
Cool.
Thank you, Molly.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Molly.
Yep.
All right, everyone. Have a good day.
Bye.
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 Stop the recording. Ugh. Oh, here it is.